we would sometimes use the brook below the house. We called it the Big Brook, and I guess I'm not sure what its real name was, but the Big Brook, so-called, did have a little better place where it looked like if you could build a dam, you might have a place that would be fun to swim in. And so we down where now uh, my daughter Judy lives, this would be down at the south end of the Smith property. Uh, we felled a tree that was able to fall across the brook at the right place. And Ralph Bell, who was at that time fortuitously changing the planks of his cow barn, he took out the old planks of the cow barn and brought them down to us. And so we nailed them to the tree trunk that we put across and sort of filled it in with mud or whatever else we could do. And lo and behold, that really worked. And we even had one of these square uh, clay pipes of 3 feet long kind of things that they used to use for, I think perhaps for sewer drainage here and there. But we found some of those so that we could let the brook run through when we wanted to, but could plug it up when we wanted to. So, when we plugged it up, yes, we had a swimming hole, and it had one rock in the middle, which made it fun. You could jump off of it, and it became the stopping place on the way home from work at the Bells to home, to run down the rather steep hill and jump in the cold water. And well, that went on all through my time that I was there until I was 17 in 1947. But it was more fun still if we could get ourselves our parents to take us down to what we call the Olses, which would be Elma Ols's house at the base of the hill beyond Glendale Falls, and then just up the road a little bit. It was a nice swimming hole. The only thing bad about it was that there was poison ivy all around there, and which got everybody had that experience in poison ivy from that, but we trod in the same little path and finally made it so we could get down to this swimming hole, which was a good fun place where you could learn to swim, and then when you got bold and sort of a little beyond your parents' reach, you'd try to dive off a big rock. You could go into another little deep place that was too close to some rocks that were under the ground, but which we carefully missed, or fortunately did. That was always fun. We even got into some trouble one time when one of our neighbors and good friends, she liked riding a horse, and so when we came home, we were hot and dirty, and so we just threw off our clothes and we'd left a towel on the beach and next to a tree, and so there Pete and I were diving in there, and all of a sudden there she was with a horse, and decided, now there's somebody I can tease. So she sure did. And we were freezing because the water was cold in that brook. And we tried to get her to move along because we didn't want to sit there all by that time. And finally she did so, and we were recovered, but much to a shivering. We did have some, this was the time when as far as around here, and dancing was square dancing as far as we were concerned. And the Grange Hall every Saturday night had a square dance. So of course we came to those, and all of our, as did all the people our age, and where we, I guess there was probably a piano player and a caller who would do it. Maybe there was a fiddler. But so that was a regular weekly affair, and I have very fond memories of making friendships, and some of them are early blossoming romances that you look back at it with fondness. And so that whether it was the Peases and the Olses and the well, you name it, that they all were there and had fun. When we were old enough, we joined the Grange, and that was when the Grange Hall was up in this building. Yeah, right. And the library was off in the front corner here. Mary Bell, one of the daughters of Ralph Bell, was a farmer, was the librarian when I was a youngster. And we were just old enough to think that she was a pretty girl, and she was young enough so that we could admire her. And in that same kind of context of square dancing and music, my brother particularly was got interested in playing a guitar and singing some country western, we call it cowboy music then, but it was, and so things developed, and he got a friend of his who had this was down in Newton where this began, but it also, well, I guess it was as much up here when it began, but some of the participants were our friends from Newton. But Pete with his guitar, and his friend Herb with his fiddle, which he was an excellent fiddler, and another fellow who played a guitar. But then we came up in the summertime when we had left some of the people down in Newton and weren't coming up here regularly. And lo and behold, the Peases came in with guitars, and we needed something more than just the guitar strumming, so that Pete and I decided, well, maybe we need a bass fiddle. But where do you get that? Well, we found an old wooden packing crate, which was about 3 feet by 3 feet. Took a 2x4 and nailed it to one end of it, cut out a hole in the middle to make a little resonance. I got a little ratchet from a hardware store that we could wind a bass string on. And that became my instrument on what became the Melody Mustangs. And the Melody Mustangs and my one-string bass fiddle, we went around to the various Grange halls and performed. We did a whole concert. And Marie Olds was a very important part of that trio with her guitar, and as was Howard Pease and Janet and Marge. All of these were the Melody Mustangs. That continued. Actually, my brother Pete continued that even as he got into Worcester Tech, which he was later later graduated from. But by that time, I'd graduated from high school, and I ended up working at the Lake Placid Club in New York for the summers. But Pete kept it up and ended up with his Melody Mustangs, whether it was from Middlefield or down outside of Boston. And it was on a radio show that came on early in the morning, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning or something, and went for 15 minutes or better. And it was one that I could, from my perch up in the Adirondacks, tune in and listen to the Melody Mustangs. And the bass fiddle went along with it.
I guess the question I have is, through my childhood, cattle show was always a gathering time.
Mm-hmm.
How far back did that start?
Mm.
Is that more your generation, or was that
No.
from before your, that
Mm.
it really is a family gathering time?
Mm.
Um,
That the old homestead was our was sort of the center of the family. People, as they uh, went on in life and went off in their own pursuits, and most of them with a college degree education. And so some were, one was a professor at Oberlin College, and another one was down at Holyoke and teaching, and often their professions here and there. But I would say that it would have been from Samuel when Matthew Smith's children went elsewhere that they would be coming back, and so sort of gatherings, probably more normally at the time of the fair, because that made a time where everybody would like to get together again. Probably would have started way back there in the early or middle 1800s, and has been going out ever since. And my folks would talk about the gatherings that would come from people coming from all across the country. Some of them that had moved out to California even, and had come back to the reunions. So it continues. In total, I guess my grandchildren are now the 8th generation, so that we feel quite a belonging to here. And even though our more recent years have been on an occasional basis and all, but with Judy and my nephew, her cousin Steve, living on the same property, now full-time residents, makes it so we really have a connection, and it's ingrained in all of us. So that's my home, and why Middlefield is special to me and all of our progeny.